This is Popular Front, a podcast focused on the niche details of modern warfare and underreported conflict with me, Jake Hanrahan. Today we're speaking to Chilean filmmaker Pablo Sáez. He's going to be talking to us about the clashes in the south of Chile, where the indigenous Mapuche people are under threat from the state and logging companies. Recently, some Mapuche was shot at, one man was killed, and the Mapuche released this video basically showing a Mapuche militia. The country is now kind of under a state of emergency due to this situation, due to the clashes in the forests. Pablo is going to explain to us what's happening. If you like what we're doing, please support us at patreon.com/popularfront. Right now, there's this kind of escalated conflict with the Mapuche indigenous people in the south of Chile. Maybe just explain to us, before we go into the conflict, like, who are the Mapuche?
Well, the Mapuche is like one of the biggest indigenous people of Chile. I think like half of the population are mixed blood Mapuche, and they have like I think 2 million people who recognize themselves as Mapuche culturally and socially. And the Mapuche, they are very proud because it was one of the few, I think, two indigenous people of South America that defeated the Spanish. So the Spanish the Reino de Chile, the time of the Spanish conquest, ended up with the territory of the Mapuche, and the Spanish crown had to recognize this Mapuche territory as another nation. That's I think they did that only in the 500 year. In the 400 year they had the South American as a colony. I think they did that only with two indigenous people. But after that, during the Chilean independence, also a lot of Mapuche fought in both sides of the independence. So the nascent Chilean state also recognized a lot of territories as Mapuche territory. It wasn't until 1879, I think, or late 19th century, that the Chilean state attacked and conquered the Mapuche territory.
They kind of lived in harmony for a bit, right?
Yeah, for hundreds of years.
Yeah.
There were troubles in the frontier. There are two wars, but they are small conflict. And when the Chilean state started, they copied what the United States government did with their own indigenous people in North America, copying the I forget how it's called, the system, but the Trail of Tears and all that stuff that happened in North America. Since the Chilean government just won a war against Peru and Bolivia, they had very modern weapons that were even like machine guns and other stuff, and cannons and like rifles that the Chilean government had like in late 18th century and were used during the World War I in the trenches. So they still, it was a very modern military, and they because of that they were able to conquer Mapuche territory, and they also made them sign some treaties as incorporation to the Chilean state. The guy who is in the square, who was in the statue that is no longer in the center square in Santiago, General Baquedano,
statue,
was
right?
but no, it was they tried to topple it and now the army took the statue away because that's the unknown soldier memorial. But that guy, he was the colonial, after the war against Peru, was the guy who was in charge of Lima for a few years, and then he came back to organize the number, but I think he killed around 20,000 Mapuche people, like children, and but the Chilean state still treat him as a hero. And in the beginning of the 20th century, there was an incorporation of the Mapuche culture into the Chilean state. A lot of the Mapuche territories were given to colonizers from Europe, like German who were fleeing hunger, Italian. There are a lot. You see a lot of villages in the south that have European names. I think there is even some places where they speak. They are born speaking in German.
No way.
But there's very small communities that, because those places were given by the Chilean state to those colonies to I forgot what's the name really bad, but it is to eliminate the savage. That's what they say. And not only with that happened not only with the Mapuche. The Mapuche is the biggest group, so it's the one who are more fighting. But that happened with the Aguita in the north. That happened with in the south with Patagon people, with the Yagan culture, and like. As an example of that ethnic cleansing in the extreme south in Patagonia, there was a lot of Croats that also were fleeing from hunger. But the state started to pay them if they brought the left ear, I think, or the right ear of people, of Yagan people. Because they wanted to eliminate. So, and that's continuing until the beginning of the 20th century, and when they changed the killing, torture, they changed it for a Catholic, giving, like, going to with the military, going to with the police. And they took the children away, and they gave the children to Catholic priests so they could take away the savage and keep the man. That was
Jesus. Yeah, it's a very similar thing happened with, like, King Leopold and them in places like in Africa, where they're like, we're gonna like retrain these people. It's fucking disgusting. So the Mapuche are essentially like the indigenous people of Chile, and lost a lot of their land, but they still have their lands in the south, right? But for the last couple of years, there's been this conflict. Maybe explain that to us.
Yeah, that has been just for the last 20 years, really.
Yeah.
That the Mapuche started reorganizing very well in the early 19th, after the dictatorship, trying to get back their lands through legal medium. They started what is called the Council of All the Lands, El Consejo de Todas las Tierras, which was a political organization. I think they still are active, but they are not very important right now, to get the land back. But the dictatorship gave a lot of land where even the Mapuche had the deeds, because a lot of they have contracts from like the 19th century that where the state say, okay, if you sign here that you are part of the Chilean state, this land that is communal land are now for this family. But they still have the deeds, but the the dictatorship gave those territories to logging companies, to very big logging companies. So in late 90s, beginning of the 2000s, the Mapuches stopped negotiating with. They didn't stop negotiating, but since there are a lot of people with different ideas, the most extreme sector of the Mapuche were seeing that the negotiation with the state and with these logging companies were going nowhere, and they started to recuperate their territories. So these big logging companies are destroying the native forest, which is one of the last very big biodiverse, like under subtropical forest. So it's a cold forest, but in the hemisphere, in the southern hemisphere. But they started logging the native forest, and they started to plant monocultive of pine, which is is not native to South America, so it drinks a lot of water. It ruins the soil because the plants here don't know how to grow around pine.
It's destroying the land essentially, right? Just so they can log it.
And not only destroying the land, because these are very big logging companies. They have a lot of power. The families that own these logging companies are families that have been in power or that had a lot of money since the time of the colonies. You know, when there were families that arrived from Spain, and then they financed the independence. And now they are the same families. You can find like the great grandfather of some of the owner of those logging companies in your history book. So when the Mapuche decided to recuperate those land, they started occupying the land, the traditional land, even though it was legally from a company. And sometimes they were the legal owner of the land. The Chilean state, like the judge, said, no, this land is to this Mapuche family, or to this to the loft que se llama, which is like an extended family, a political organization, a communal way to live, to organize. So they say, okay, this land, but since they are very rentable lands, the logging companies use it, and the police, even though it's legally Mapuche land, the police protect the logging companies, you know?
Right, and the state is complicit, right, in allowing these logging companies to go into their land,
No, it's not only complicit, it's the state incentivizes it.
How so?
There is a law made in 1976 by the dictatorship that give which is for the development of the land, and they give a lot of money, and they reduce the expenses they reduces the taxes of the logging companies, and they give subsidies to the logging companies, a lot of subsidies, so to log the land. And the idea was to develop to develop the land, to make a modern economy and all of that. But what ended up happening was the towns where people work for these logging companies started to get poorer and poorer, because there was less water, so there was less way to have crops. So people had to stop working working the land, and started to work for the logging companies, who paid very little, and that cycle continued. And the state tend to protect with the militarized police, because here in Chile, Carabineros, the police, is part of the military. It's a militarized, even though they are the police, they are separate institutions, but they are a militarized police. They have, as the military, they have like control. They have duties of control to crime, but also they have duties of military. Like they are the people who watch the frontier. So they send this military police
gendarmes,
with
basically.
yes, but with military equipment to protect these logging companies, and that made the conflict escalate, because the Mapuche tended to take their land back, to take these huge spaces of the back. They cut the pines, eucalyptus and pine. That's what the logging company plant. They cut this foreign plant, and they start growing again native woods and growing traditional crops. And the police come to expel them. And there is a cycle where the cops tend to get every time more violent. At the beginning, until a few years ago, like you saw every Mapuche fighting with throwing stone, with the traditional way of throwing stone. And it wasn't until a few years ago that they started using these hunting shotguns that are mostly for they are not very they are dangerous, but it's not a very big stuff. And it wasn't until now that you started to see these bigger caliber weapons. So the state has been buying every time biggest equipment. They started with armored trucks from Poland, like they brought in the 2010s. Armored trucks they bought from Poland to go to the south. And now Piñera bought a lot of armored trucks from Israel. The one that the Israeli use against the Palestinian, to use against the Mapuche. But and now the south is under a military curfew, where you have the army and the navy with marines patrolling the street in 3 provinces of the south, which are the provinces of the traditional Walmapu, which mean land of the Mapuche. Mapu means land. So the idea of land is very important to the Mapuche culture, because they say they are the people of the land.
Right, and they even have a kind of, from what I've read, it's like even their religion, right, is kind of very revolved around nature and the land not being disturbed.
Yes, like having an equilibrium with the land, like being a guardian of the land, you know, and like their political and religious leader, the Machi, which is called, tend to have to go like what we will call the church is a big space with statue made from trees, and those political leaders, the Machi have been persecuted by the Chilean state, mostly with fake proof, accusing them of killing and burning some colonists.
Well, yeah, I've read about this. So a lot of people have said that the Mapuche, they set fire whilst obviously, like in their bid to kind of get rid of the logging companies. Obviously, we know they've attacked various machinery, like sabotaged it. It's been Molotovs. But some people say, oh, they burnt somebody alive. What's the story behind that?
Yeah, well, the traditional way of fighting for the Mapuche after the 2001, when there was the Coordinadora Arauco Mayeco, the CAM, that started to get actively fighting the state. They started burning trucks. They started burning a lot of trucks, and then what started to happen, and it's very confusing, is the same logging companies were burning their own trucks, so the state will send more police to guard them.
Is that confirmed?
Yeah, there is people arrested.
Really?
In 2016 and 17, they arrested people, and there are operations. They made Operación Huracán. That was under Michelle Bachelet, who was also a socialist, and they organized this big intelligence operation, and they arrested a lot of people, and then it ended up that all the proof were false. So under political pretexts, but there is it's not clear as water. There, Mapuche burned some truck. There are now that they burn a train that passes to some traditional places. But
that happened this week, right?
Yeah, an industrial train, and that was the traditional way of doing it. But to escalate the conflict, they never attack a human being. That was important for them, to never attack a human being, always to attack infrastructure. But I think it was in 2009, but around 10 years ago, or maybe less, someone burned a couple alive, an old couple. They were the owner of these were they weren't like innocent bystander. These were owner of a big plot of land. They worked with the dictatorship. They had a lot of political power with the right wing in the south, and they started to burn their the house around their house, and they ended up dying in the fire. And what happened was that the state concentrated all the investigation and all the resources to arrest political leaders for the Mapuche, including the Machis, these religious and political leader. And there they accused with false proof Machi Francisca Linconao, who is now writing the new constitution. She was elected as part of the 155 new writer of the constitution. They arrested a lot of people, and they spent years doing the tours of different trials, and it ended up being that all the proof they had against this political organization, these political participating Mapuches, weren't true. So what's happened now that this couple doesn't have real justice, because even though I don't like what they did with the land, they didn't deserve to die that way.
Right, yeah, totally.
Yeah. And what's happened is that they don't. There's no a true investigation of what did really happen. There was an investigation to try to persecute the Mapuche leadership, and get them arrested, and it ended up being all false. And also, there have been false flags. There have been a lot of false testimony. This anti-terrorist law can make that you can have anonymous testimony as proof. So sometimes you have testimony from someone, and the defense lawyer can hear or know what the testimony is, and the judge take that as proof. And a lot of time it has ended up that this anonymous testimony is a cop, or is someone who's working for the logging company as security guard. So right there is the problem. And the Mapuche leadership that was arrested for the crime of this Luxinger Macay was called this couple. They in fact, they were people who won a case against the Chilean state in the Inter-American Court of Human Rights. So it was more a political maneuver than anything else. And what's happened to the security guard that died a few days ago, a few weeks ago, I don't remember, is also something very similar, that there are a modus operandi that the Mapuche Resistance use, that it is to burn infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
And there are false flags, and you don't know, like, was it a false flag? Was it a burning of infrastructure that went out of hand? I can't really say.
Right. So what you're saying is, yes, there is obviously a Mapuche resistance. Some of them are armed with whatever, but mostly the attacks are like sabotage and, you know, burning stuff. But also the state is kind of doing some kind of fuckery. They're kind of messing around as well, trying to blame them. Yeah.
Yeah, the state is escalating the conflict very much because of the Pandora Papers. It ended up going that the President Piñera had sold a mine, the space of a future mine, to one of his friends. And in the contract, it was that the state cannot, for him to get paid, the state cannot like declare that a public a zone, a protected zone. And that mine is in near a penguin sanctuary for an endangered species, and there are a lot of endangered species. So it was a very dirty stuff, and that got out with the Pandora Papers. And in that transaction and all that, he lost his base, because he's the center right, even though they are very right wing, but they call themselves the center right. They stop like giving him like political power, and they made so in the center and the center left made a constitutional accusation. And to avoid to have the number of deputies to avoid the constitutional election, he started to taking cues from the far right, and that's where he declared the curfew, because the deputies and senators of the far right, there are a few, they are asking for a military intervention of the Chilean South, even though it's illegal. They have been asking for it for years now, and now to avoid this constitutional accusation, he has given in, and that meant that this week Marine infantry with the cops in. There is a lot of protests of people, peaceful protests of people that don't want the military being there.
In the south, you mean?
Yeah, in the south, and in near a military checkpoint, Marines started to shoot at a truck. They killed one person. There is 5 people who got shot in total, including a 9-year-old girl. And at the beginning, the cops and the government started to say that it was a firefight between the Mapuche Resistance and the cops, where the Navy arrived to help the cops.
Mhm.
But then a video got leaked of one person was just filming the people protesting, and he was in one of the cars that got shot. So you can see the moment where the Marines start to shooting, and there wasn't a firefight.
So they just opened fire at random from this video.
I don't know if it was at random, but the Marine opened fire without direct provocation, and that's where it started doing the round. That's why I told you that I'm not sure that this other political militant group that made this video with the shotguns, with the M16, with I don't know if it's true or not, because the day after that video appeared. It's too much of a coincidence.
The video, you mean the video, just to clarify for the listeners, it's the one where, there's this Mapuche militia apparently saying we're gonna fight back.
Yeah, that's why I told you that I don't know if it's real. It might be real, or it might be like a justification to have the military in the Wallmapu. So
interesting.
I really don't know if it's real, because like in the video they have an M16, and it's the joke here in the resistance against Pinochet is that they failed to kill him because they used to buy M16 instead of Kalashnikov. So because they were using capitalist weapon, they couldn't kill Pinochet. So it might be that these are an old cache of weapons from the times of the resistance to Pinochet. It's very probable, but it might be also a false flag with a cache of weapon of this, because the extreme right has also organization and has what they call Comando Germán Trizano. Germán Trizano was another military leader during the occupation of the South, and was another genocidal crazy general, I think. So they have a lot of weapons. They tend to take pictures with a lot of weapons. They tend to with legal weapons because they are close to them. A lot of them are ex-military or are ex-cop or are active duty cops that are very right wing, and they shoot a lot of. They participate in a lot of stuff, but there are no firefights. There are no shooting between the groups. The only people who have been shot until right now has been Mapuche people who, since 2001, when direct action started to be in use, the Chilean state has murdered 21 Mapuche fighters, huaychafes. Huaychafes is the word for warrior. And no right winger, apart from these 3 cases of people that died in fires, has been hurt, and no one in a direct fight. So, and they shot a journalist. They didn't shoot the journalist. They shot at a journalist with a shotgun, with a hunting shotgun, at the beginning of the year. They shot the truck where he was where he was going around, and the cameraman got hurt. But then after the investigation, at the beginning they were saying, oh, okay, this terrorist organization, the Mapuches, are trying to kill journalists now. But then after the investigation, it ended up that yes, the people who shot were Mapuches, but they weren't politically active Mapuches who wanted the independence. they were Mapuches who worked as guard for the logging companies, and they were drunk and started to shoot at the journalist because he just interviewed Hector Yaitul, who is one of the leader of this movement that want to recuperate the Mapuche land. So
right, I've read about this. So there's a lot of the Mapuche in the forest that they want resistance. You know, they want to fight back against the logging companies, but there's a lot of Mapuche that have basically taken money to then protect the logging companies as well, right? So basically fighting their own people.
Yeah, but that's because it's like 2 million people in a not that big of a zone. It's diverse people. There are people that get Chileanized, as they say.
Yeah.
They are culturally Chilean, but they are ethnically Mapuche. There are also, we have, as Brazil, as other countries of Latin America, we have a big influence from the evangelical movement, the United States evangelical movement, and now the Brazilian evangelical movement, but that are very right wing, and there are a lot of fun because the towns in the south there are a lot of trouble for the lack of jobs, there's not a protection network, so there are a lot of people who have problem with drugs, with alcoholism, and they tend to go evangelical, and instead of going to their traditional Mapuche way, and like those people are the right-wing people, like normal right-wing people. I don't know if normal is the word, but they tend to be ethnically Mapuche or culturally Mapuche, but they are they have like you have all the spectrum you find in a society, you will find in the Mapuche.
Of course, yeah, it's normal. Let's talk about this video again for a second. So the video where, you know, you're saying we don't know if it's real, we don't know if it's kind of a false flag. Personally, looking at it, I think maybe I'm more inclined to believe it's real. Like, yes, they do have M16s, but they also have like lever action shotguns, like really old bolt rifle kind of stuff. And, you know, it does look quite, I don't know. Personally, I think probably it's real, but maybe not. But maybe just give us an idea of what they're actually saying in this video.
Well, they were saying that they will fight back against the Chilean state, that for every one of the Mapuche killed, because his name was Jordan. He was killed. He was 23 years old. And they were saying, no, for every Mapuche killed, we will fight back. In the video, in the thumbnail of the video, that's why I'm very suspicious of the thumbnail of the video, because in the thumbnail, not in the version that is making the rounds in WhatsApp and another app, but in the version that they uploaded to Instagram, you can see a house burning, which is the house of Luxinger Mackay, which is one of the couple. I'm not sure it's the house of Luxinger Mackay, but you can see a house burning, which is the reason the right here are saying that we must have like an anti-terrorist war against the Mapuche, because they're burning people in their houses. And there is also a row of trucks who has been burned, and that picture of trucks burned, that there are logging companies trucks, that was a false flag. That was definitively a false flag. It's a very impressive picture because there was a lot of parked trucks that ended up being burned, and but now we know that was a false flag, and it is in the thumbnail of the video. So that's why I'm suspicious.
Sure, but anyone could have added that thumbnail afterwards.
Yeah. That's why. But they say they're going to fight back. They want freedom for the political prisoners of Mapuche Resistance and freedom for the political prisoners of the Chilean people. And that's all. That has been like all the left, all the less demands for the last year against for the liberation of political prisoners. They take that and say very clearly, and they say they want to fight for a independent Walmapu. Not necessarily. I don't that part I didn't understood that it's for independence, like an independent state, or because a lot of Mapuche really, they say they fight for independence, but they want something like what Catalonia have in Spain, even though Catalonia want to leave Spain, but that kind of political independence.
And has there been much Mapuche activity involved in the clashes in Santiago, for example?
Yeah. The Mapuche flag is one of the principal flags. In the principal flag, you will find in the protest is a symbol, because even though there are a lot of Mapuche in Santiago, even though I am Chilean and there are a lot of Chilean, but we use the Mapuche symbol because it's a very close symbol of resistance. They fought against they fought against the Inca Empire before the arrival of the Spaniards, and they won. The Inca Empire ended up here around the south of Santiago because they couldn't win against the Mapuche. Then they fought the Spaniards, conquistadores, and they won to the conquistadores. They fought the Chilean state at the beginning and they won, and it wasn't until the invention until the arrival of this big professional army with this veteran army with modern weapons that they lost. So they are a big symbol of resistance. So during the protests, the Mapuche Urbano, the urban Mapuche were very active, and people were taking the Mapuche demands as part. The Mapuche demands are an important part of the demand of the protest movement of 2019, and Mapuche demands are also very important as part of the new constitutional convention. The president of the constitutional convention, Elisa Loncon, is herself a Mapuche, and she was elected through an indigenous seat, an exclusive indigenous seat. There were 17 where only indigenous people could vote. So there were 9 for the Mapuche because they are they are the biggest group, but there were also for people from Rapa Nui, from Easter Island. They had one. People from the north, different peoples that were conquered before by the Inca Empire, and then by the conquistadores when the Inca Empire fell. And they all have representation in the convention, and they tend to present like similar demands. You see similar demands to the people who are fighting in the south, but through an institutional way.
Is there anything else you think we should know about this Mapuche clashes just before I go?
I don't know if about the Mapuche clashes per se, but what I told you during the chat, that I'm really hopeful about what's happening in general in Chile, even though the state, the Chilean state, the right wing, but also the economical powers are escalating the conflict in the south, are criminalizing the protest movement. There are stuff are looking rough right now. I'm very hopeful of this process because I've seen organizations like before the protest, people wouldn't talk between them. And then we started to talk in parks, in squares. We started to get together for political purposes, but not the big politics. Instead, the small politics. Like we need to get together to repair or neighborhoods. We need to get together to get or old people good pensions, and it's happening around Chile. And you see, like I admire a lot the Chilean feminist movement in general, and this idea of intersectionality. And I think that what is happening through the convention is an applied idea of intersectionality, in the sense that we have people who are fighting for water, people who are fighting for indigenous rights, people who are fighting for educational rights, getting together, talking, and trying to build a new society without a bigger conflict. People have died. Since in the protests, there are more than 30 dead. The Mapuche have more than 20 have been killed since they started to demand their lands back. But it's not a war, it's not a civil war, it's not a dictatorship. So I have hope that we will find a way to build a post-capitalist, a truly democratic society. And the thing that is happening when you see the Mapuche conflict is that the right wing, through the police, through the military, are escalating all the conflict, are criminalizing all the protests. So this new constitutional project, this new cultural way of working together, start to disappear quickly and to go back to consume. And that's what's happening. I think I know that, like in the poor neighborhood of Santiago, the bigger city, we still have like a lot of problems that people cannot feed themselves. So they are organizing, making ollas comunes, which are like soup kitchens, but through self. To mutual aid, instead of needing help from outside. So there is a lot of things happening that not necessarily are related to directly directed to the conflict, but that there is a smell in the air of the possibility of a true change of society. Like even the anarchists, I've seen like 4 different anarchist conventions to get together to talk about how to work, even though it's nothing to do with a new constitution, but because you cannot get free through laws. You have to get free through action. They say, but there is a smell of change. And I'm very hopeful of that.
All right, mate. Well, good luck. And I hope to get out there at some point soon.
Yeah, of course.
All right, mate. Speak to you soon. Thank you very much for that.
Ciao.
That was Pablo Sáez talking about the clashes in the south of Chile, in the forest between the indigenous Mapuche, the military, the state, and the logging companies. If you want to get updates on this, you can follow Pablo on Twitter. It's twitter.com/PSSAEZA. If you like what we're doing here at Popular Front and you want more and you want to support us, remember, we cannot make any money from our documentaries because YouTube demonetized our whole channel because, I don't know, they don't like real life. We can't make any money via Instagram because they don't allow us to do any of that. So the way we make money is via Patreon. We sell extra content on Patreon, bonus episodes, narrated articles. There's a whole series on there instructing people on how to be a reporter if they want to be. There's a community Discord, loads of stuff. So go to patreon.com/popularfront. Without the patrons, we don't grow. So yeah, patreon.com/popularfront. Or if you want to do it with crypto, Bitcoin, Ethereum, go to popularfront.co/support and you will find our wallets there. This episode was sponsored by Oracle Coffee Shop in Portland, Oregon, USA. They're an independent coffee business selling only fair trade products. See them at 3875 South West Bond Avenue, 97239. Tell them Popular Front sent you. The episode was also sponsored by our friends at Grindcore House, a pair of independent coffee shops in Philadelphia, USA. One in South, one in West. Find them on socials at Grindcore House. The episode was also sponsored by Propagandopolis, an outlet selling and writing about historical conflict propaganda from around the world, by prints at propagandopolis.com. Use the promo code POPULARFRONT10 for 10% off. If you want to follow us on social media, Instagram at popular.front. Might as well follow the backup as well, because we're constantly being censored and they're threatening to take us down all the time on there. So the backup is at popularfront_. Twitter at popularfront_. YouTube.com/popularfront to see all our documentaries, or just go to popularfront.tv. Website popularfront.co. You'll find links to everything there. If you want to follow me on social media, it's at Jake_Hanrahan. HANRAHAN is how you spell my surname. You'll find my work at jakehanrahan.com. Thank you very much to the following high tier Patreons. They are RA, Champagne Anarchist, Thwat, I don't know if that's meant to say Twat, I'm not sure, Thwat, Elisa Middlefar, Jess, Lewis or Louis, David McManus, Joaquin Williamson Holt, Yudoye Travis, Tom Petrie, James Leons, Kate, Lisa Milgram, Bradley Davies, Brendan Crave, Pete Hesher, RX, A. Nicole, Travis Lieberman, Cherry, Ben Marshall, Dallas Dunn, LD50 Seattle, MJ, K. Glitter Vulcan, Meredith Waters, Bethany Swoveland, Adam H, Karante, Bjorn Kirsten, Diamond Steen, Michael O'Connor, Zach Packard, Todd Cravens, Nicholas Butter, Ron Swanson, JD, Jav, Ian Froese, James Cully, Tynan Daly, Ethan, Fitz Madrid, Ed Coulthard, Mike Barone, Ben, Liam Williams, Chris Cusimano, Degenerate Zero Alpha, Giorgio Arani, DR, Trey Nance, Amy R, Rubicon, Frank Austin, Amelia Me, Nawaiz, Nate Van Dor, Christina Rivetti, Freya Northman, Ali Hunter, Andrew Hurley, Vida Provost, Brian McLaughlin, Tom Lochrin, Young Wasabi, Tony Bin, Adam Bergsnyder, JL, Anthony Kobarak, Dan Dunham, Fletcher, Chad Walker, Diana Gorvanek, Lawrence Abrahams, Peter McCormack, Axel Iverson, Christopher Martin, Ryan Sandercock, and Maurice Zumball. Thank you all very much. Really do appreciate it. You keep this going. If you want to support us, patreon.com/popularfront. Oh shit, I forgot. Music in this episode, the intro is by Home and the outro is by Sam Black. Listen to his music at samblackpf.com.